Good afternoon, viewers. Once again, I want to welcome you to my YouTube class. In today's class, we're going to be talking about the topic classification in biology. All this while, we'll be talking about parasitology, and I've decided to give a shot to the study of biology. Now, when we talk about classification in biology, what do we mean? Classification is a system of grouping organisms or arrangement of organisms into various groups based on their shared characteristics. And the big question now is, why is it important to do classification in biology? Why is classification important? Classification in biology is important because it helps in simplification and identification of organisms. By the time you classify organisms into various groups, it becomes easy to simplify the process of identification of such organism. Classification is also important because it also reveals evolutionary relationship between organisms or among organisms. So the organisms that are related based on their pattern of evolution will now be grouped into the same group, or probably other factors could also be factored in when it comes to classification. In the past, there has been this system of classification where organisms are grouped into plantae, animae, protista, uh, fungi, and the rest of them. But in the year 1970, there is this American microbiologist that came up with a new system of classification. And according to him, Carl Woese is his name, Carl Woese, and according to this man, organisms in general cannot be grouped into three or cannot be classified into three different groups. The first one, he called them the eukarya. This eukarya is also called the eukaryota. Then the second group, he now called them bacteria, and the third group, he now called them Archaea. So these are the three different forms of classification. Every organism you can think of in this world must be included under these three categories, except probably the organism called, sorry, it's not even called an organism, we call it an agent because it does not have a cellular structure. And for that reason, we don't call it an organism. And that is Mr. Virus. So virus is not included in this classification. Virus is not an example of eukaryota. Virus is not an example of prokaryota. And virus is also not archaea. So these are the modern form of classification. So organisms must belong to these three different categories: the archaea, the bacteria, and of course the archaea and bacteria are also related in the sense that if we want to classify organisms into two groups alone, then we can bring bacteria and archaea together to form what we now call the prokaryotic. So it's also correct for you to say that we have only two categories of organisms, and that is general classification. So if you're not a prokaryota, then you are an eukaryota. What is the basic difference between a prokaryota and eukaryota? The basic difference between a prokaryota and eukaryota is in the nature of their cells. Take this cell as an eukaryotic cell and take this cell as a prokaryotic cell. Now, in every cell, the proteins are usually bound by nucleic acid to form what is called the nucleoprotein, to form what is called the nucleoprotein. So nucleoprotein is a complex that is made up of the nucleic acid and protein. And of course, when I talk about the nucleic acid, I'm talking about the RNA or DNA. These are the two forms of the nucleic acid. In the case of the in nucleoprotein found in okay, let me use this as eukaryota and use this as prokaryota. So in the case of the nucleoprotein, the complex of protein and nucleic acid found in eukaryotic cell, there is a membrane that covers this nucleoprotein. And this membrane is called the nuclear membrane. It's called the nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane. Membrane. However, when it gets to prokaryotic cell, you're going to discover that the nucleoprotein or prokaryotic cell or prokaryotic cells are in direct contact with the rest of the cell. There is no nuclear membrane separating the nucleoprotein from the rest of the cell. And this forms the primary or the major difference between a prokaryotic cell and a eukaryotic cell. Please understand carefully that prokaryotic cells do not have nucleus. There is no nucleus. As a matter of fact, I cannot call this nucleus because that is actually what forms nucleus. The separation of the nucleoprotein by a nuclear membrane is what results to the structure, the membrane-bound structure that is called the nucleus. For eukaryotes, for prokaryotes, they do not have nucleus. However, this region within their cytoplasm where there's location of the nucleoprotein is what is called the nucleoid. The nucleoid. This is what they call the nucleoid. So why nucleus is found in eukaryotic cell, nucleoid is found in prokaryotic cell. Another major difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes is the fact that there is no membrane-bound organelles in prokaryotes. What are these membrane-bound organelles? Nucleus is a membrane-bound organelle. It can be found in prokaryotic cell. Then mitochondrion is a membrane-bound organelle. Endoplasmic reticulum is a membrane-bound organelle. The Golgi apparatus is a membrane-bound organelle. The lysosome is a membrane-bound organelle. The peroxisome is a membrane-bound organelle. So all these membrane-bound organelles cannot be seen in the prokaryotic cell. However, all of them are seen in the eukaryotic cell. So these are the two basic differences between a prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Now, when it comes to classification, classification in plants, generally speaking, we have the first group we call the schizophyta. After schizophyta, we have the second group we call the talophyta. Then I have the third group called the bryophyta. Then we have the fourth group called the pteridophyta. We have the spermatophyta. So these are the five major groups, five major forms of classifications we have in plants. So we have the schizophyta. Under schizophyta, that is where you have, it's also called the monerans. That is where you have the bacteria and the blue-green algae. And of course, they fall under prokaryotes, so they do not have membrane-bound organelles, and they also do not have nucleus. The second group is known as the talophyta. In this group called the talophyta, that is where you see the algae and fungi. And of course, these ones are eukaryotes, so they are equipped with membrane-bound organelles, and they also have nucleus. So we have algae and fungi located here. So here is bacteria and blue-green algae. Don't forget that blue-green algae is also called the cyanobacteria. Blue-green algae is also called the cyanobacteria. Then we have the bryophyta. Of course, that is where you see the mosses and the liverworts under bryophyta. Bryophyta, forms an intermediate position between the higher algae and the lower pteridophyta. And okay, we will still look at that. Then pteridophyta is the next one. That is where you see the fern, the salutum, and the rest of them. Then spermatophyta. Spermatophyta are classified as the group of plants that are equipped with seed or that possess seed. The word sperm means seed. So phyta means plant. So you are going to see phyta. Whenever you see phyta, it's a biological term to indicate that what you're referring to is a plant. So spermatophyta, these are a group of plants that have seed. And of course, this is where you now see the gymnosperms and the angiosperms. Gymnosperms and angiosperms. And of course, under angiosperms, you now see the monocot and the dicot. Now, this is for plants. When it comes to animals, we group animals into different phyla. We have the first, which is called the protozoa. We have the second one, which is called the porifera. We have the cnidaria or the colentrata. Then the fourth one, we have the platyhelminthes. Then I have the nematoda. Then I have annelida. We have mollusca. We have arthropoda. We have echinodermata. Then we have chordata. These are the separate phyla we have in animal kingdom. That means everything called animal must fall under this phyla. And then it's also important we know that from this first group to this one are called the non-coelomates. They do not have a filled cavity that is called coelom. Then the group called nematoda have false coelom, so they are said to be pseudocoelomates. They have false coelom. Then, of course, we have these five groups known as Annelida, Mollusca, Arthropoda, Echinodermata, and Chordata are said to be coelomates. Coelomates. Because they have coelom, they possess a coelom. Then this acronym I derived when I was in school, CPN and Mike. So this can be used or can help when you want to remember all the phyla in animal kingdom: the protozoa, porifera, cnidaria, platyhelminthes, nematoda, annelida, mollusca, arthropoda, echinodermata, and chordata. Then this chordata is the phyla that links both the vertebrates and invertebrates. Don't forget that we have two categories of animals. We have the vertebrates and invertebrates. So it is this phyla called the chordata that links these two different groups of animals, the vertebrates and invertebrates. So we have chordata, then we have the first group of chordata, which is called cephalocordata. We have hemicodata, we have urocodata. Then of course we now have vertebrata. vertebrata. So these are the four different subphyla under the phylum Chordata. Then, of course, within these vertebrata, that is where you now see the fishes, you now see the amphibians, you now see the reptiles, you now see the aves, then you now see the mammals. So can you see that we've categorized all the organisms in the world, both plants and animals, based on these classifications that we have talked about. This is where I'll stop the class for now. In my subsequent class, I will now talk about the cell structure and their function. Thank you for listening.